Hey guys, welcome back. Joe here again, scalefreak.com, coming to bring you the shock install. This is bag 7 of the Sakura D4 rear wheel drive kit. Check that bad boy out. Oh, and check that bad boy out. I got shocks on this kit now. Watch the video, see how I did it. Now moving into bag number 7. This one here, shocks. This is not my favorite thing to do, but a necessary evil for any kit that you have. It doesn't matter if it's on-road, it doesn't matter if it's off-road. If it's RC, you're probably gonna have to build a shock for it. Now, a couple things that I might suggest. Trc Shock Tool. This thing is a phenomenal addition to your arsenal when you're building shocks. It's a good way to hang on to the shock shaft without scoring or tearing it apart. And if you do not have Team Associated green slime in your toolbox, stop right now, pause the video, and go get it. It's ASC1105 is its part number. This you should have anytime you're building shocks. So let's get into the bag real quick. Open this bad boy up, just like that. Now, what you are gonna see here, well, is a couple different things. Number one, you are looking at a plastic bodied shock with aluminum head, aluminum bottom, which basically holds in the cartridge, and the aluminum preset. I'll show you here. I'm just going to tear it apart real quick. Now, I will show you how I build one shock, and then you can go ahead and do the rest of yours, but I'm going to show you how I build the shocks. So one, bang, 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 I pull it all apart. Again, grab your little parts tray. Remember, I do have a couple extra screws in here because that last step, that last bag, pre-opened bag 9, which has some screws left over. Now what you're gonna see here, per shock, you're gonna need, I'm gonna move these out of the way, you're gonna need a big rubber ring, a baffle, 2 E-clips, 1 smaller O-ring, you're gonna need the bottom of the cartridge, the center spacer, and the piston. That should be about it. Now, when you are building these, I want to be very, 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 very clear to say that you need to be extremely, extremely careful when building the shock shaft when you're using those E-clips. It is easier than you would ever expect to accidentally shoot one of those E-clips off into the middle of nowhere. And again, an E-clip is a nothing part until you don't have it. You know, Traxxas will usually make some good ones that you can go buy in a pack, but buddy, if you don't have to buy them, don't go buy them. So on here, basically what you're gonna do is grab the shock shaft itself. Make sure when you're putting these E-clips in, you are working over an area that you can get these things back if something happens to it. I just get a pair of metal pliers and very, very carefully clip them on. Be very careful to keep your fingers shrouded over top of it, just in case something happens. Now the instructions do call for you to get the 3-hole piston, so they're in there. Just push it on the top, and this is the hardest part, is getting this E-clip onto the top of it. This is kind of where it really wants to leave, and it's a little harder to control. But be very, very careful. See, I already dropped it, and I'm actually being very, very careful. Be very careful getting that E-ring in the slot correctly. Very careful in hanging on to it, and be very careful in putting it on. So boom, I got it. Take your time, even if it means slowing down, maybe stopping, maybe walking away for half a second. Take your time with those E-clips because they will go flying, and that sucks. Okay, so the next step here is throw this bad boy inside the shock itself and just slam it down in there. Now this is where I start to use, actually, you know what, sorry, almost. This is actually where I start to use the green slime. I already pre-put a small layer inside where the shock cartridge goes. That way it seals the top of it. Now I throw this in here, into the shock shaft, and then I put a little bit of green slime on the threads, so that way I don't accidentally tear my O-ring on the threads. So now the cartridge is built like this. Now we're going to take in the O-ring spacer, so this little O-ring, that goes at the top, then the cartridge in the middle, then, where did it go? Where did it, there it is. The bottom of the cartridge on the bottom, so it seals it in with the cap. Then I put more green slime on here to goop that all up in the inside. Now the purpose of the green slime is because oil can't pass through it. So I put it on there, so there now I've got that built up, the O-rings and everything are on the inside, and then now I'm going to put the bottom of the cartridge on, just like that. Tighten it down. And now this will be nice and smooth, and then clean the shaft off. Now what I do is head in here, because we have to get, where's my knife? We have to get the bottoms for the shocks. So that's going to be on one of these little plastic guys here. Just twist it off. Clean up the head with the hobby knife. And then what we're going to do is, using the shock tool, grab a hold of the shock shaft itself, and then just start to thread the head on. Just like so. Now, as a tip from the racing world, it does tell you in the instructions to screw it up until it hits a certain spot. But as a tip from the racing world, what we always used to do was, again, grab this bad boy right here, center it out, and then what you're going to do is measure the distance from the bottom of your shock to the bottom of the eye, and make sure that's the same between all 4 shocks. So 11.9 is what it's at. So when I build all 4 shocks, I'm going to make sure that each one has 11.9 of travel to make sure that they are all consistent. Now here, just for build's sake, I'm going to toss in the ring. That one rubber ring goes inside of the preload ring. So there we go. Do whatever you got to do to get stuffed in there. They don't necessarily like to go in the first time because they're made to be bigger than the ring. So there we go. And then just pre-thread that on. Now careful with this one, guys. Being a plastic shock body, it will try to cross thread. So just get that bad boy on there. And I don't screw it all the way up yet because of the shock oil, because you're about to make a little bit of a mess, so have a rag handy. It does come with 350 CST weight oil. So then what you do is just put it in slowly. Wait till you see it close to the top. Then slowly compress and uncompress just to get the air out from underneath the piston. Then, holding it so that it's completely uncompressed, fill it flush. And then what you're going to do, sorry, I forgot about this part. Make sure you pre-pull off one of the tops because it gets a little tricky. Now, take the baffle and you're just going to set it on an angle on the top and slowly roll it down so it pushes any extra oil out the side. Then grab this top hoop and screw it down. Now, again, there is excessive oil all over the place. That's fine. Once you got this thing cranked down, grab your rag, clean it up. Now what I do is send the preload spacer all the way to the top. Do this a couple times just to make sure it's working. And then grab your spring. Now, please be mindful that in the instructions, it shows you that there are 2 different types of springs. There are separate springs for the front and separate springs for the rear. And it's fun trying to just get them apart out of the package. So there's 2 and there's 2. The shorter spring, if there is a shorter spring, no, they're all the same. The tighter wound spring is for the rear. So when you look at the 2 of them, you'll actually see that one is a little bit tighter than the other one is. The tighter round spring goes to the rear, and the looser wound spring goes to the front. There also is a diameter difference that's kind of difficult to tell. So what you're going to do then, grab the bottom of the shock, just pull it off, well, and then trim it up. Again, guys, always trim it. And then put on your shock spring, pull pull it all the way up like this, put the spacer the correct way in the bottom, and let go. Ta-da! Just like that. Tiny little shock. So give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to finish up the rest of these. With all 4 shocks built, now it's time to get them on the car itself. And literally that's just a matter of pressing it in. 1, 2, 2. And again, guys, these are pretty tough to push on. They did a great job at making sure that that all of the balls were a super, super, super tight fit. And that's kind of what you want, because you're less likely to have something just randomly fall off the kit while you're out making your runs. And then 2 more clicks. 1 and 2. That's it. So suspension is now on the kit. So you see in the front, ba 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 ba, and on the back, ba 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 ba. So just remember, take a look at the springs, make sure you keep them separated, fronts for the front, rears for the rears, and then from here, after you get all your kit set up and with the wheels on it, then you can start to make your adjustments as to whether you need to add or remove any preload or anything like that to your suspension. Remember, when you're doing your suspension, right, by stiffening up the rears, all you have to do is add preload, and it adds a lot more stiffness to the spring itself. Don't be afraid too, after a while, of testing different shock oils. I mean, it's just a matter of having a bunch, 5 pound or 5 weight here, 2.5 weight, whatever it is you want to test and try different things and see what works better for you. In the race world, it's encouraged to change them between qualifiers just to figure out whether or not maybe a different weight is what's keeping your times down. But guys, that's it for the shock video. That's it for this one here. Thank you guys for watching. Please remember to click on the like button, click on subscribe, comment below, and also share this throughout your community. And please also remember, head over to the RC Mart website to take a look at the Sakura D4 all-wheel drive and 2-wheel drive kits, as well as the systems with the Hacktronics, the Hackmoto, the OMG, all that stuff. You can get all the parts for this on that site. So please, guys, thank you very much. Thanks for checking out the video. Have a great day.